Launch team wishes you good luck and Godspeed.
Space monkeys blasting off with Paradox, Dotsama Validator, Kusama Counselor Hopeful, Senior Polkadot Ambassador, super involved community member, and vital contributor to governance. I wanted to get him in here today to talk validating, governance 2, and the Treasury. Paradox, welcome to the show.
Hi Jay, well, I'm happy to be here, and that was quite a long intro, almost like a CV, so good research.
Well, the thing about you, Paradox, is that you do so much for the community, but I think people might be interested to learn that Polkadot and Kusama are not your full-time jobs. You're actually doing a job building in the real world.
Yes, that's correct. I spent, let's say, probably about 15 years in the software development realm. I have a first degree in computer science. So I am a software development consultant right now. And I think everyone knows what that's about. You know, that's programming, software development lifecycle, managing that. And I program mostly in .NET, and I use SQL Server as my backend, my data store, not a blockchain. Outside of that, I am also involved in the family business, also qualified by degree in something called quantity surveying. It's a construction-related field, and it's not a hammer and nail thing. It is related to management of finances. So we do like feasibility studies, cash flows, disbursements, and also things dealing with contracts, so disputes, claims, all of those sort of things. So it's a bit dynamic, but it fills the hours of the day.
Yeah, dynamic sounds like another word for extremely busy.
Every hour you see me helping out, it's not an hour made in a day, so I have to make it up in the night.
Well, I'm curious, because you're so active in the community, what were your first impressions of Dotsama, and how did you come across it in the first place?
I'm here about a year, probably about a year and a month. And it really started with my a family member who is in a non-tech field, telling me all about blockchain and how his investments are going and stuff like that. And blockchain wasn't strange to me. I knew about Bitcoin from the very earlies, and I liked the concept, the technology, but I never found that Bitcoin had utility. And I know some people are going to be very upset with that. It's just my perspective. So I never saw the utility in Bitcoin, but I saw that utility in Ethereum. So I, kept my eye in and out of it, and it's only until that family member brought it up last year that I decided to, read up more and invest. And I saw some shortcomings of Ethereum, mainly in the scaling aspect, and I'm not a big fan of proof of work either. I think it's like wasted CPU cycles. So I was narrowed down to, smart contract or programming related blockchain projects and proof of stake. And I got to Polkadot and Kusama, and I really liked what it's a platform that appeals to that software development side of my career.
Yep.
I see it being very, very robust, and it's built almost like it's built for me. It's like built for programmers. And the idea of Kusama is total gold in terms of ensuring a quality product. If you follow that proper life cycle and you do what you need to do.
Sure.
Kusama is like a huge tool. it's for a developer. It's like you get a test environment where people are actually testing and doing everything like in the real world.
Yeah.
And you get that benefit at a lower cost.
That's actually quite amazing. And it's not only 13 months of Polkadot and Kusama, but 13 months of really getting into blockchain as well.
I knew some fundamentals, but in terms of actual some wording, some of the culture, I had to pick it all up.
Incredible. So you find out about the technology. You obviously dove right in. And how long was it before you decided to start running your own machines to validate the network?
I think it took about a month and a half, maybe a month or two.
Wow.
I started just like everyone else, I started nominating, and I'll just share. I guess it's not going to be a secret anymore, right? I started nominating on Kraken, off-chain, that one button thing.
Sure.
And as my knowledge grew, this concept of not your keys, not your crypto came up.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a ledger. I took my funds off the exchange. I went on chain, and like many, the process of staking was not a one click like on the exchange. So I had to do some research, and I figured it out, and I started staking on chain.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, well, I'm doing all this research on these other guys, and I have to trust them that they're doing all the technical stuff. Why can't I do those technical stuff myself?
Mm-hmm.
So I took that road of setting up a validator, and in doing so, I got some help, and that help was I was very appreciative of it.
Yeah.
And decided to give back. So I did some videos of my own.
That's how I came across you, actually, is when I was doing research for my own nominating videos. I found your videos on YouTube.
The idea was that I didn't find that the videos that I found, some were old.
Yeah.
Some were new, but they were very, very tech oriented, and it didn't explain. I think like for someone who's just starting it, or wants to understand, I wanted to get those fundamentals down. You're doing this because of this,
right?
And so I took that approach. Once I'm clear that someone can understand what I'm saying and understand the principle that I'm trying to put across, I think that's a win.
So what's the path for somebody who wants to start validating on the network? Do they need a huge pile of capital to start, or is it something that anybody can do?
Well, that's a good question. I think one of the things, yes. So to get into the active set and to generate blocks and earn rewards, you need to be nominated. So you need some nominated stake. The best way to get that is via the 1000 Validator program. And to do so, there are some entry requirements. And the entry requirements are that you have things like a primary identity, that you have a server setup, that you have 10 KSM if you want to do on Kusama, and 5,000 DOT on Polkadot.
Wow.
Now there are some little blanks. Yeah, it's a lot of Polkadot, right?
Yeah.
But Polkadot's that corporate grade kind of thing, so it does have a little more stake to it.
Mm-hmm.
So there are some blanks that I may not have mentioned, and I'm sure you can look it up on the wiki. But I would like to mention some points that maybe are not mentioned on the wiki. I think you need good Linux skills. It's not a Windows platform. You have to be ready to, you should know what to do and how to do it quickly. I think that's always a good point. And you should get a little familiar with the group if you're going through the 1000 Validator program. And essentially prepare yourself that if something should happen, how are you going to deal with that problem?
How often do your validators require your intervention to keep them up and going?
Generally, I would say the only time that we really need to interact with the server to do anything like an intervention would be for upgrades and when we are monitoring, let's say, database space or space on the drive.
Yeah.
So those are probably the the things that we interact with most. But we have monitoring 24/7. So if anything should crash, we get an alert, and our phones ring and so on. And we have dashboards set up so that for each of the servers we are monitoring certain vitals that are important to the well-being of the server instance.
And you're saying do you have a team behind your validators? Is it something people can do by themselves to begin with?
Yes, I have two guys right now who assist. I have one that's seasoned and one that's started on the 1st of April, and it's no joke. So these guys help things like upgrading, monitoring, and I do advise, I know the 1KV is a very kind of solo type thing, but there's no harm in like a few friends coming in and helping each other. And it is, in my opinion, the better way to go, because if something should happen to me or I'm indisposed, in a meeting or something like that,
Sure.
I need someone to have my back. I need, running a validator, and I have some that operate 24/7. They're in the active set, independent of the 1KV.
Okay.
And something can happen at any point in time, whether you expect it or not, and you have to be ready to react. And having a few extra eyes is quite helpful, and it has come to my benefit more than once. So I'm grateful for it. Yeah. And I think, in my case, I'm employing, but if it is that, you can't do that, but you have some friends that you can rely on and you trust, you go for it.
Yeah. Is validating on our networks a profitable enterprise?
So with regards to the 1KV, it can be, because now we have a minimum commission on the chain. So that's 3%. And your inclusion, that means how often you're in the active set via the 1KV, is fairly often if you're participating in democracy and council votes and you're doing all the right things. Once that's done, you should gain more than you spend in terms of your cost for your validator machine, and to cover some of the costs associated with you monitoring this thing each time it's in the active set or otherwise and doing your upgrades.
Right.
Polkadot is a bit more profitable, even within the 1KV.
Fascinating. And you mentioned this minimum commission for validators on the Kusama chain. This was actually an initiative that was spearheaded by you. You created this change for all validators and everybody nominating on the Kusama chain. You got the support you needed to make this change. Can you just tell us a little bit about what it's like being a community member who submits a motion for referendum?
Well, this change took a lot of time and a lot of effort. From inception, I would say that I'm just a regular community member, aside from all of those things that you said at the start.
Right.
I'm just a regular guy, right? I'm not working in Parity or W3F or I'm a community member, and it goes to show that if you have a good idea, that is, you put forward a reasonable argument for it. It's not self-serving. It's a general benefit to the chain, because we had lots of guys operating at 0%, and that's not sustainable, because you're going to get costs at the end of every month, bills to pay, and you're exerting your own effort. How long can you do that?
Right.
So you put forward a good argument or a good position, based on fact, and it took some time, some back and forth. Some people saying no, it's not a good idea. Some people are saying that it is, and eventually the extrinsic was made available for the community to vote. Let us see what the community thinks.
Yeah.
So once that was enabled, I submitted the referenda. It's a simple process. There's a few clicks, probably a minute, maybe two, and it was up for vote. And from there, it became 1 week of lobbying. Trying to get people to vote or support and those sort of things.
So another place where people can find you very often is the tip board. You are one of the top finders on the tip board. And just so everybody listening understands, content or code that's improving the Dotsama network can be submitted by a finder to the council, and then the council is able to assess it and give it a small slice of the treasury as a reward for the work finished. I just want you to tell us a bit about how you got involved in the tip board.
So I got started on the tip board as a recipient. So someone saw those videos that we were talking about earlier, and they found it was awesome, right?
Yeah.
I'm just using that as a play. Report awesome is the extrinsic.
Yes.
So they thought it was awesome, and they decided to tip, and they asked me, what's your address? Can you put it at the bottom of the description and those sort of things. So I didn't know about the feature, and when I looked into it, I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. And as I got tipped, and more council members voted and those sort of things, and I actually got the reward, I felt very happy. It was like not only for the reward, but the fact that someone saw something, they thought it was good, and then like the council thought it was good that they put their KSM votes. And so I started to do some more videos inspired by that. But then I thought, there's so many other people doing good stuff in the ecosystem. Why can't I do the same and let them have that feeling of fulfillment and appreciation and stuff as well? So I tend to keep my eye out, and there are a few people that I've tipped more than once, or proposed a tip for more than once.
Yep.
But there are some, and it's always the first time. The first time is like the best, it's the reactions and the...
Yeah, it's a total paradigm shift.
I think being there and feeling that's something that's you need to... I guess we could try to vocate it, but it's best felt. And I like having that ability to share that feeling with others, and I think it helps in the general sense. We have had a lot of people start on the tip board and they have migrated to, doing good things. One is yourself, the NFT guy. That's another one. The guy who's giving NFTs for governance.
Yeah.
We have had a few bots. We have had people like Turbo Flakes generating good content. I think Polkadot's site got tipped a few times as well.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so there's a lot of good stuff happening there. There are a few that I think may be abusive, but sure. I think generally let's not taint a good thing with a few exceptions. I think it's generally a good thing.
What's your general assessment on the Treasury and Treasury management? Because I feel like right now we have, I don't know, maybe $600 or $700 million stacked between the two treasuries.
I think we are making an effort, right? For me to say Treasury's funds are not being spent on things that can benefit the ecosystem would be wrong. I think it is being done.
Yes.
Can we improve? Yes, I think we can. There is one guy, and I think we know that council member who is very, very active in getting these things done, and that's Raul.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
He's an inspirational kind of guy.
Yep.
I look at what he does, and I try to support. I try to support the community in a similar manner, but maybe a little diminished because I'm a regular guy. So I mean, I think if we had more Raúls, that would be great. But I digress. There are some good council members as well. Like we have the Jams and we have the Bill, right? So those guys are doing pretty good as well. But I think a little more activity from the council. I see it like we're still in that mode where we have a lot of council members that are reminiscent of the chain when it was at we need somebody to get it back up. It came down and we need a council to vote quickly to get that chain back up.
Yeah.
And we are at a stage where there is a large semblance of stability. So maybe we need a council that is not only technically inclined, that can, vote to get things back up, but can also engage the community and get a lot more of these proposals going, get more bounties. Bounties is a good way that we can spread that scope of control by assigning curators to, disperse or manage funds. So I think if we need to change, even if it is the thinking of the existing council needs to change. I think we need to switch that paradigm from we need to hit a button or vote A to get the chain back up to we have funds that we need to spend to promote the ecosystem. And as I said, it's being done, but I think there's room for improvement.
So there are a couple ways to address these issues, and one of those ways is to get involved in the council itself. This is something that you're actively doing. You've been campaigning for several months now to get a seat on the council. What was it that made you decide to go that route?
Well, I was trying to figure out a way in which I can help the community to some elevated position. And as I said before, I'm highly inspired by Raul. And I thought to myself, hey, if I'm a council member, maybe I can endorse tips, so that I have a personal, timer, I think, or expectation. I expect that, once a week, you should endorse a tip or, check the tip board. And I saw some things that I thought that, hey, if I was a council member, I will try to do better.
Yeah.
Or, more frequently. And there are 19, but, how many are actually active, So 19 on Kusama, I should say.
Yeah.
So I wanted to be an active member of the community, an active member of the council. I wanted to represent the views of the community. So one of the things is that a council member is a representative of a collective at times. And I wanted to represent the community and those independent validators or validators by large. So I saw myself as being that representative person in a group that I don't see that representation. Maybe it's there, maybe I'm not seeing it, but that's where I saw myself. And hopefully, being active and giving that back to the community.
Yes, and you are still a runner-up for councillor right now. But if anybody is enjoying what they're hearing today, just head over to the council section on Polkadot.js and click the vote button. We are able to back councillors with our stake that we have nominating validators.
Yeah, so I would appreciate the vote. Maybe there's governance 2.0. So
yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. We've been hearing a lot like the council's going to be completely dissolved. What do you think Kusama looks like in a world without 19 council members?
Well, one of the things so let's look at some of the benefits of governance 2.0.
Sure.
There are some shortcomings, and it's really like with referenda and people voting at the very last minute. right? There is no candle approach here, so you can vote at the very last minute. And if you vote with something that's a deciding amount, you can change the vote. So the vote is really determined in the very last few minutes. That's one. And people can swing vote, meaning that they are voting nay, and it gives us a false sense of security to the party, and then you can switch to the opposite side. So you more or less remove votes from one side and you add to the other, and that can be determining as well.
Right.
You can change the vote.
Right.
So Governance 2.0 has a few things like time spans that could be extended under these circumstances. So I think it's a good thing. And once there's a deterrent, I think people would, avoid doing it. It won't make any sense to really take those actions. So that's one. I think that's pretty cool. There is a queue right now in which there's one public referenda at a time, and there can be a few motions that make itself to the private queue.
Yeah.
So there is some level of concurrency, I think, coming with Governance 2.0. So you guys can put little asterisks on these things. It's I'm not too sure, right? But those are some of the ideas that I heard around the chats. So that's one. And the other one, which is where it comes to the council members and no more council and those sort of things.
Yeah.
There is going to be, right now, any funds that are disbursed from the Treasury, it has to go through the council some way or the other. So be it set up a bounty, to issue tips, or proposal, Treasury spend proposal, all goes through the council.
Okay.
My understanding is that instead of going through the council, this will go through the public.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds good from a decentralization perspective. But what concerns me is that the council members there's an expectation that they will have some understanding of finance and budgets and, good spending habits and cash flows and, those sort of things.
Absolutely.
They will have some expertise in terms of evaluating a proposal. And if we put it to the public, I'm not sure if that expertise will be there and the voting will be more on whims and biases. Then there's also the aspect of accountability. If it is that someone with 10,000 KSM in a bond decides to vote in their favor, and there's no identity set or whatever the case may be, you don't know who that is, and they can take a prejudicial vote or a biased vote and get something passed or failed or whatever the case may be. In the present council, if someone votes negatively or in a certain manner, they can be held. You can ask them, hey, why did you vote nay for this proposal? Can you explain, what can I do to be better? What can I do to improve this thing, to change your vote from nay to A? Is it at all possible? So we lose that interaction. We may have like a forum or something like that, but if you don't want to be held accountable and you have a lot of KSM behind you, you could not be accountable. You can just vote nay and say, I just don't like that guy and I'm going to vote nay. And the funds would not be spent. That's as far as I see it. I don't know if there is, in actuality, there's some way that protects against this, but we'll see.
Yeah. No, I have some concerns too. On one hand, you have the possibility that the Treasury could just get picked over. Everybody could submit proposals. If they have a huge stake, they could even vote for their own proposals.
Let's say they are competing projects. Can one project decide that, if they have a lot of KSM, they keep it anonymous and they decide that, hey, I'm just going to, every time my competitor comes up, I'm just going to take him out,
Very good point. Absolutely. Well, it could just generally lead to more involvement.
It could. I hate to say, I think involvement is pretty low at this point in time.
It is, yeah.
There are some silent voters just hovering around on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
I feel their presence, so that if it is that, we humble, normal people are voting, and it is something that's negative, they feel very strongly against it, these larger bonds will just swoop in and, vote to protect the network or something like that, some guardian angel voters.
Yeah.
Right. So that's one. But I've had this very out of the box idea that we should, and it's very out of the box,
Sure,
right?
sure.
So not it's that the bonds for everyone should start at let's say a coiled or contracted position, so that if you have like 1,000 dot or 1,000 KSM, it's initially worth like let's say 10, right? 1 or something like that, a very low figure. But as you vote in democracy, your bond builds back up to that 1,000 KSM figure after like a few votes. So it does for me, as far as I see, is that those guys that are on the outside, just waiting, guardian angel, and if they see the potential to vote, they will vote. If they don't, when they vote, they will only have like 1 KSM, But if they are frequently participating, and for them to have that guardian angel effect, they need to be participating more frequently. We are basically calling them out. We are making sure that they participate if they want to have that role in which that they can, make a vote. It can also help you. All these exchanges, and some of the numbers are pretty high. You'll see those 100% validators and stuff
Sure.
like that. What if those guys decide to vote for Treasury funds for themselves, or what if those guys decide to, be malicious, or be cheeky or something
Yeah,
like
exactly.
that? So, yeah, so and we never know, they can come in at any point in time. So this way, if it is that they are interested in coming in at some time, we will see them coming because they are participating in voting, along the way.
Right.
They can't just come in for a last minute vote. Out of the box, can it work? Are there disadvantages to this? Are we taking away people's rights? I don't know, but
It's an interesting concept. So just to be clear, the more an account votes, the more power granted, like a higher multiplier granted to the amount in the account, right? So that encourages people to be involved, even when it doesn't just favor them to vote.
Well, what I'm saying is that you build up not beyond your regular bond size, but
Right.
you start lower than your bond size, but you build up to your bond size higher democracy. So that way, there's like no real, yes, we are not taking away your right of vote. You can build up to it. It's just going to take you 10 votes or something like that,
Sure, sure.
And the little guys, the ones who are frequently participating, I think we should also contract the total votes or the electorate based on those figures as well. So if it's only like 300 people taking part in governance at any point in time, the electorate becomes those 300 people or whatever.
Damn, well, I would really like to see a discussion on that in Polk Assembly because it sounds like a great idea. I'd love to, I'd love to see the other side, like what people are saying about why it wouldn't be a good idea. But we definitely need something like that in the case where we don't have a council anymore.
Yeah. I'm going to put a checkbox in that and open a thread. Yeah, good idea.
Okay, awesome. Well, Paradox, we covered so much today, and it is so inspiring talking to you. somebody who's so involved in the Dotsama Council and really shaping the network. It's different. The network is the way it is, partially because you exist and you choose to be involved. So I really hope it inspires more people to do the same. And I just want to thank you for all the time and work you put into making Dotsama as best as it can be.
Well, Jay, what can I say? I'm appreciative of all those kind words, and I just look forward to helping the community. You know, I was part of your journey, and I hope to be part of many others, and get you guys where you need to go. And that's how we grow. We help each other.
That's amazing. A great place to leave it off. Thanks very much for coming in, Paradox, and I hope we can talk to you soon, and we will definitely see more of you on Discord and on Poke Assembly.
Thank you so much. Take care.